All right. All right, so we'd like to call to order the meeting for the Recreation Committee. Today is April 28th, I believe, correct? And it's 6 o'clock. I'll go. My name is Troy Smith. I am the chair of the Recreation Committee. And then I'll just pass
Karen
over.
Rowan.
Marcus Banner.
Jim Letney.
And then we also have via Zoom or YouTube is Trevor Redinger as well on this. And we'll just start by going down the agenda. First, Marcus, is there any citizen comments or anybody else have any comments from citizens that we need to share?
Not really. I was hoping the guy from the food pantry was going to be here at this point. I was going to put it in here, but Jan Bisser from the food pantry was going to come and ask about space at the community center for the food pantry. I don't know what his plans were. Max, I talked to Max a little bit about it, and he said, they might be looking for a space, maybe not even attached, but just if there's more space available up there. I think we talked, and there's 14 acres, not counting the ball fields.
Yep.
So, or if it is attached, but their own, maybe another anchor tenant, I'm not sure. But he wanted to come and talk, but he's not on the Zoom, so.
I thought the woman who was renovating the barn down there, that's where the food pantry was going to be from now on, that she wanted to give back to the community.
On Friendship Street?
Yeah.
Yep, that's where they are right now. I thought things were going well, but he said he wanted to come. I believe it's still going well.
Looking for a bigger space.
Oh, really?
Okay.
So that's pretty much it for citizens.
Yeah, so I guess what I'd say there is if he shows up or he pops up on there, we could, readdress that.
Yep.
But maybe also something that's, where they express that in, as we talk about the RFP and
Yep.
And they would be either stakeholder or, to propose that, and then they can make that type of decision. Approved minutes from 2/24. Everybody has those in front. I would just note that you might want to correct the spelling of your last name on that first result.
Yeah.
Unless you want to go by Marcus Brenner.
No thanks.
Everybody else had a chance to take a look at that or any other changes that they would like to have made? If not, I would welcome a motion to accept.
Motion to accept.
Second.
Second.
Any
I got in there
discussion?
before Karen.
All right. We'll go with that. Trevor seconded it. And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. It's unanimous. And the fourth item on the agenda is the Recreation Director's report. And I'll turn that over to Marcus to update the public.
All right. So most of this is kind of repeat from last month, but we didn't have a quorum, so I'll kind of repeat some. But my budget was restored to full-time starting July 1st. They've already put out the notice for a new clerk. Talking with Julie where there is money in my budget if we can get a new clerk in. She had mentioned something about June 1st, maybe being able to go back to rec. But that's still dependent upon the voters approving it in June. For me, if it doesn't get approved, then it could be a problem, but at least it passed unanimously through the select board and budget committee. Little League signups are now closed and most of the teams are set. Games for the major kids start this weekend and minors and T-ball will be starting the next weekend. We're down about 3 teams. Seems to be the general consensus across the league. Everyone's down a team or 2 here or there. But definitely better than last spring. The school has approved summer rec. They've given me access to Miller Gym for the 7 weeks. So that's a go. I have that advertised. And I advertised for more counselors. I have my entire staff from 2019 returning. But where we were only part-time then, and now we're going to a full-time, full day. I'll need more staff. I already have one application in and 2 more taken out that I know of. So hopefully I can fill those pretty quick and have 4 kids signed up so far. Our break-even point is right around 30 kids. So hopefully we can
Build that number.
get to that number at least. I talked to the school transportation director. He had a bus driver that was certified to drive in the summer and thought that she'd be interested. Or he, I'm not sure. He said driver. And I asked the big question right now is how many kids you can get on a bus. In some of our director MRPA meetings via Zoom, some of the towns are doing 25, some are doing all 50. So I wasn't sure. And he thought that, if it's the summertime with windows down, we should be able to get 50 kids in a bus, which is a huge relief to me because I can get all the kids from the camp to and from field trips in one bus and in one trip instead of doing either 2 buses or 1 bus doing 2 trips.
Oh, that's good.
It makes scheduling a lot easier as long as that's the case. Pitch hit and runs back on this year. I'm going to run it a little bit later. It's a local competition that gives the kids to move on for it's baseball, softball, pitching, hitting, and running competition. We have a local competition, and then the winners of that will go to sectionals, which is part of the state of Maine. And then they get their scores at sectionals get compared against all the other sectionals. And the winners of that move on to the regional competition, which is at Fenway Park, which is cool for the kids. We had a girl 2 years ago make it to Fenway. She actually finished second even down there. So that was cool. But then the winners of all the regions across the country usually get to compete in the national event, which is usually at the All-Star game midsummer, but this year they moved it back to the World Series in the fall. So it's great for us because it gives us more time to get it in. It's usually hard to squeeze that in during baseball season. So I'm gonna push it back a little bit, but
Nice.
happy to have that back.
Mm.
And then once I'm hoping, as long as the church is still on board, once I get restored to full time and have the time to come and go from the office and not be locked down like I am right now, that I'll get pickleball back up and going 2 days a week. And that's kind of my hope for the summer is to get that back up and running and the summer rec as well. As long as the church will still let us in, but it's
Are we
time.
hopeful in that regard?
I haven't talked to the church at all. So I'm not sure, but all our stuff is still up there. They let us store it up there. But I haven't been back since all this started, so I don't know. But
What day of the week are you looking at?
it was Tuesday, Thursday before, so I plan Tuesday, Thursday again. So that's it from my report.
All right. I see the gentleman's.
Yep.
If you want to take that.
Sorry, I can't read the name on the Zoom. Are you the gentleman from the food pantry?
Yes, I am. How
All
y'all
right.
doing?
Good. How are you?
Good, thanks.
I'm doing really good, thank you.
Yep. If you want to hop in now, we got past citizens' comments, which is where I was gonna have you speak. So if you have
I
anything,
do.
Yeah.
So thank you. By the way, I'm also chairman of the Economic Development Committee for the town of Waldoboro. So I
nice.
know exactly what you guys are going through. So we've been talking to Max and Julie probably for the last couple of years. The Waldoboro Food Pantry, I think in the last 2 years, we've relocated 3 times. Typically, we rent space or we're donated space. And the place we're at right now on Friendship, which is, I think, Max, it's the Madomic House, I think.
yep.
Yeah.
He's not in here anymore, but
Oh, okay. Yeah. So we have about 1,000 square feet in the barn in the back, and we serve just about 100 families every other week out of that location. So it's a pretty important function that we perform for the town of Waldoboro. One of the things that Julie and Max and I have talked about is the possibility of having space allocated in the new community center, specifically for the Waldoboro Food and whether that was a possibility or not. And Max and I have gone back and forth. I mean, this is all just like probably what you guys are doing now. We understand it's 2-3 years or whatever down the road, but we want to make sure that if there's a fit for the food pantry in the community center, that we take advantage of that. So that's really kind of the thinking. There's two possibilities. One is, well, actually, there's three possibilities. One is that the food pantry generates a capital fund and we build our own facility somewhere else. The second possibility is that the town allocates space inside the community center for the food pantry. And the third possibility is that the town allocates land near the community center for the food pantry to build on. And that would mean we'd be able to take advantage of the drive and parking and all the infrastructure that would have to be built anyways. So that's kind of my purpose of being here, is just to make sure that you folks are aware of those discussions. Like I say, just to make sure that the food pantry is not forgotten in the planning of the community center.
So is it Jan?
It is, it's Jan, yeah.
Jim Letney here.
Hey, Jim.
Do you have any idea on what you're gonna need for square footage? Or at least hypothetically? And what
Yeah, I
about?
mean, what the food pantry is doing right now is we're in about 1,000 square feet, and we basically prepare the foods for the families that come in need. And everybody basically gets the same bucket of food to their car, delivered to their car. The way a food pantry normally works is it's almost set up like a miniature grocery store, where the folks would be able to come in and kind of shop for the produce that they need.
Right.
And so when we're beyond the pandemic, our needs are going to change. And so our thinking is, and this is really kind of, we're not 100% sure, but our thinking is we probably need somewhere around 4,000 square feet.
Wow.
Whoa.
So why that much? Now remember, some of that, if we're in the community center, some of that square footage is shared. So we would need space for bathrooms, for example, which you would already have. We would want a kitchen, a commercial kitchen, which my understanding is would likely be planned anyway. So some of that square footage probably would be shared anyways with the community center, and some of it would be new and allocated just for the food pantry.
I would think your refrigeration, you would want separate though from the kitchen.
Right, absolutely. We would need, so the things we would need would be cold storage and a freezer section. So someplace where the food can be kept. So, we do, we keep, milk and eggs and meat and, all the usual things that you would think. And then we would need a space that's kind of like, the grocery store kind of idea. And what those spaces are, I'm not sure. Maybe 2,500 square feet, something like that, in addition to what is already planned for the community center.
Sure.
And and that's just ballpark. We'd have to
Right,
sit
sure.
down and sketch it out.
Yeah, that's all we've been working with so far is ballparks.
Yep.
So that doesn't limit us any, I think, to add on. I'm sure we put out the survey, the unofficial non-binding ballot in November, and our original plan was a 22,000 square foot building that we estimated in the $6 million range. And that was like the most expensive option, but then we offered a 4 and a 2, and the 2 is what passed. So we're looking to shrink down from the size that we planned, but I don't know that, your addition would fall under our
Right. Yeah, I
space
understand.
requirements or budget requirements. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
So that's where we're at. We're at the point where we're trying to figure out what we want. We if we can't have it all, do we want, a gym and a lobby, or do we want a kitchen and some multi-purpose rooms? Like we're kind of, but that's why we're, later in our meeting, you don't have agenda in front of you, but
Yeah.
the next thing on the agenda is we're coming up with an RFP to get some architectural designs. But so it's good to know there are some other interests in space.
Yeah. So, and then the other, and I'm not sure how this works, and I really, I'm no expert on any of this, but obviously the food pantry would have a capital fund. And we're actually considering starting a capital fund now. And how we would spend that money, if we're part of a community center or I just don't know. So so there's all those kind of questions that are out there.
Right.
Yep.
Before the pandemic, how many families did you serve? About.
It's grown. So it's varied over the years. It's been as low as 50 or 60 to over 100. And our expectation is that number will continue to grow. So we don't see a shrinkage in that number. We see it growing.
Would there is there any like privacy concerns being a community center, or with some of these families, or would that be a non-issue?
I think it's actually the exact opposite. I think it would make the families more comfortable, I think, in terms of coming to the community center, and parking in the community center and walking in and being part of the, I don't think there's as much stigma involved if we're part of a town building versus having our own kind of separate facility like we do now.
Right.
I don't know if that's true or not, but that would, that's my speculation.
Yeah. So
It's
again,
a good question. It's a really good question. We want to minimize that as much as we can. Treat all the families with respect. They're members of the town, so we want to treat them right.
No, it's definitely a great service that you guys provide, and you had mentioned the capital fund, and if you were going to raise to do it separately, and obviously there'd be some savings if we did these projects either together, shared space, or part of, so those are the types of options I see as well. So with that being said, and the way the increase of building and everything has gone up, and hopefully that comes down by the time we get to that point, but would it be something that you guys would entertain, like raising, or if it was a phase or an addition to the building, or however they would to design that, would that be something of interest?
Yes. Yeah, I think it would. Obviously it would have to go back to the board of directors, and we would vote on something like that. But yeah, I think we would certainly consider that.
Right. Because that's one thing that we've talked as a group of trying to find other, not necessarily anchors or other groups, anything to kind of make this feasible and, possible for the town to our goal of a community center. And whether it's a health component, it's the food pantry, it's some other entity to help make sense to this type of expenditure for the town. I mean, we all know the benefits of it. It's just a matter of how can we get it past the finish line.
Yeah. What do you think your timeline is right now? What's your best expected projection?
I would love to throw a date out there, but I'm not really comfortable in it. I mean, Marcus may be, but we've had the talks of a recreation center since I was a student, and that was many years ago. But it's got some momentum right now. We've got the non-binding agreement. hopefully today we'll talk about the RFP. Once we get that approved, we can then start the process, hopefully, of the public forums, inputs, design, costs, and then kind of go from there. I mean, I can't speak for all the other parties, but like I mentioned, if we could find some other anchor tenants or other components to it, to see if they could bring something to the table once we get that number amount, or if we include them while we create that number amount, would be my quick. So it's not really a timeline, but projects like this probably are 2, 3 to 5 years out.
So that was kind of my thinking, that we were probably at least 3 years out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would say
At
minimum.
minimum.
Yeah.
All right.
So,
Well, and I think that works fine for the food pantry. I mean, obviously, we're okay where we are now. We're snug.
yep.
And if we get a lot more families, we'll be in trouble in a hurry. But I think as long as we, my message to the other directors at the food pantry is, this is a long, our job is to make sure that 3, 5, 10 years down the road, we're able to serve the community. And so we're not looking for a quick fix. We're looking
Sure.
for the right.
Yeah, and what I'd recommend to you and your board, I guess, or that concerned group, is once we come up with a public forums to attend, or have some leadership attend to put in their input, so it could be part of that design.
Right.
How often are you open now, Jan?
Twice a month.
Twice a month?
Yeah.
Okay.
And would we
Now,
like to
would
be,
that-
would we like to be open more than that? Absolutely.
Yeah,
But it's a massive undertaking. It's just,
Right.
yeah.
sure. Well, I guess with that, I would just close this conversation with, thank you for all you guys do. Obviously you're serving the community, and that's the goal of all of us here as well. So keep up the good work. And once we get to this RFP point or the public forum, make sure Marcus reaches out to you guys to make sure you guys are aware, and you can even help spread the word.
All right. Awesome.
Oh,
I
Before
appreciate
you go, Jan, I have
Yep.
a question.
Sure.
Is most of your space then used for storage? Or is it prepping the buckets?
It's the majority of this. So there's two things. The majority of the space is storage. So we've got a number of freezers and fridges and racking with, dry goods, canned goods, things like that. We try to bring in milk and eggs, the day of or the day before. So we try to bring in as much as we can right near the day of. But then if you can imagine trying to prepare food for 100 families,
Yeah.
and then have that in one single space, that takes up 1,000 square feet, just having that food ready so we can deliver it to the families when they show up. So we're jammed, really.
If you had a walk-through pantry, you wouldn't have to need the prep space then, right?
Well, we would, there's two things. One is, as long as the pandemic's going on, we would still need at
Yeah.
least the space that we have in some. When the
Right.
pandemic's over, then that space ultimately turns back into the grocery store kind of
Right.
idea,
Right.
where the folks can come in and we would have potatoes and carrots and,
Right.
yeah.
all the milk and eggs and different meats. And then the commercial kitchen, our hope would be that it would be a place that we could teach the families how to prepare healthy meals for their kids, for the families, and even have the kids come and learn how to make healthy meals on their own. So that's the significance of the commercial kitchen.
Is there any chance that you would be opening more than twice?
Yeah, I think, well, not only that, it's a real good chance that we would provide additional services. So, we would be able to provide counseling to the families. We would be able to, like I say, teach them how to cook healthy meals. So yeah, there's all kinds of great possibilities if we have a permanent space and we could, and it's suitable for those kind of applications. Yeah, absolutely.
Jan,
I think if we could, we'd love to be available every week.
Yeah.
Jan, do you have a facility design in mind, or is there another community that has something that you'd like to mirror?
I've been looking.
or-
I'd be happy. Max has an example of one that I really liked that I sent to him. So I've just been stealing other folks' ideas.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You
no,
don't have to recreate
why
the wheel,
reinvent the
yeah.
wheel?
We know how to.
I imagine you guys are doing the same. You do a search on community centers, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
RFP from Wyndham.
So I'll be happy to share that. I'll make sure Max sends that. And don't be too focused on the square footage and the layout. We could decrease that to make sense for ourselves, but the
Right.
idea of space and the functionality of it is what's important.
And Jan, have you done any research to see if there's any particular grants that would assist in that type of, or matching or that type of stuff, especially with
I
changing?
don't want to get too excited, but there's a lot of grant money available. And one of the things that I do is I actually have prepared grant applications for the food pantry. And over the past year, we've done, it's not big, but if you consider it's just for equipment and things, we've gotten over $10,000 in grant money.
Good.
So yeah, there's absolutely grant money available.
Yep, great. Anybody else? Any other questions?
Good.
All right, you're more than welcome to stay on and follow, or you can log off as well. But thank you for coming in and sharing.
And thank you for your time. It's much appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you.
With that, we'll move on to the new business. Marcus was able to come up with this with, looking at some other RFPs, and I'll kind of just turn it over to him so we can work on trying to finalize this so we can take the next steps.
Yep. So I gave everybody here a copy of the RFP. Trevor, do you have that in front of you as well?
I do.
Perfect. So I sent it out and Kelly kind of edited it just for grammatical mistakes. But it basically follows what Wyndham did. They were the same company or the same town that had the concept plans that we looked at when we kind of designed the 22,000 square foot building. They had a meeting, what they asked. They sent out the RFP. They ended up working with Harriman. Harriman's did all three of those concepts. They did all three of those buildings. I can't remember where one of them was up in Presque Isle, and they've built some community centers around the state. But they came back. I even have I don't know if I sent it to you guys, but I have the cost of what came back from their RFP. They were right around $14,200 for what's laid out in this RFP. So it goes right down the list, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. The first number 1 is a kickoff meeting between the company and the town or the stakeholders, and that cost $400. Then number 2 was public forum number 1, where the architect works inside a public forum, figures out what the town wants, what the people want, what the price range I think is, and so on the quote that they got, it was $600 for that forum. Pretty much all the forums were $600. And then so after the first forum, the architect would come up with a design. They had them come up with 3 alternative concepts. Basically what they did was small, medium, big. And they ranged from like $10 million to 30 something million dollars, I think. So I don't know if we want to go that route with different sizes. The 2 I'd kind of thought of were, a smaller one, like we might be limited to, with the $2 million or whatever. Hopefully we can get some grants and private funding to up that a little bit. But kind of a, and we've talked about it, gym and lobby and bathroom, or, fitness center, multi-purpose rooms, and a kitchen, or whatever, how much can we get? We don't know. That's why we're here. And that was, so the original concept is 8,000. And so maybe we do, they came with 3, and then maybe we do maybe there's a phased approach we look at, or there's number 3 is kind of the hardest one to nail down for me.
Mhm.
What do we want to ask? Do we want to ask for 3 designs, or do we want to ask for 2, or phased and unphased, small, and maybe we still want to have them design what we really wanted, and maybe the town will change their mind. I don't know.
Well, the town's gonna have to change their mind because look at the cost of
Everything.
everything
Yeah.
has gone up.
Yeah.
A house that was 4,000 is now 600,000.
Right.
Just the,
So after the original concept's built, they come back to a second forum and, show the town what they came up with. And then they go, they take the input on those designs, go back, refine it. That's 2,000. Come back for a third and final forum with, second rough draft, so to speak. And then kind of get final touches. And then number 7 is a final concept. And that was another 2,000, and that's where they ended. And those are the final concepts that we saw from Wyndham, how they went through it. So I didn't really change much in this outside of changing the names to Waldeboro. But what do we? I guess I think we should really look at: do we want 3 forums? Do we want them to redesign it 3 times? Or do we, and then what kind of concepts do we want them to come up with? And I'm hoping we can get something, through tonight so that we can get it to the select board and get it out.
Yep.
Julie said that it does need to be approved by the select board, but there is money in the fund for us to be able to do this. So that's where I'm at. I don't know what you guys think, but.
well, I think it's a smart approach. I don't know that we would need 3 concepts.
Yep.
I would think the medium concept, we could go either way. If we found we needed to do that, and that would cut some of the costs down on it. But I would think in the medium concept, we would know the major things that we've already spoken about.
Right. I think that you could change the language in the number 3, develop concept designs, and maybe develop up to 3 alternative concepts based on the input and feedback that you get from
Number
1 and 2. One's going to give you your price concepts or ranges, and 2's going to give you what everybody in the public really wants and their dream list. And then that architect is going to have to come up with some facilities to say, okay, public, if this is really what you want, this is what it would be, what it would cost, and this is, the budget based on this is what you would,
Yep.
So I would just say up to 3 maybe, or you'd really want the stakeholder group so that if there was any outside developments, whether Maine Health or anybody else, they would probably be considered a stakeholder, I
Yep.
would think, even though they may not own the building.
Right.
They would be a key tenant or anchor.
Yep.
But I think the more public forums that we could have, do we know what the attendance would be or how we could do it? With technology, you could also add that piece into it, even when we're past pandemic.
Yep.
So the more input that we could get and the more support, I think would be good.
Okay.
Obviously it makes it a little bit longer.
Yep.
But then again, what we don't want, and regardless, we could do 50 forums, there'll still be people that will say, oh, I didn't know, or I didn't,
Right.
Yeah,
But-
and
but for them-
some of
for-
them you'll get the same people all the time.
Yeah.
Yes,
I mean,
it's-
it's 20% of the people do 80% of the work, and that's somewhat common. But if we try to make it to gather some steam, which would help obviously in raising
Mhm.
funds possibly too. So I don't see tons that I would change.
Okay.
And, unless you wanted to get a quote or an RFP for 2 designs or 3,
Yeah, I
sometimes you can do on a bid, like, okay, for 3 designs, it's gonna be this much. I mean,
Right.
if we're talking $1,400, like, is that?
14,000.
Yeah,
Oh,
for the
okay.
whole
Oh,
thing.
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
just
I
talking
gotcha,
about like
gotcha.
number 3.
Number
So
3.
Gotcha.
that's where the meat and potatoes is the
Right.
architectural
That's
work.
8,000.
Other than that is sending 2 people to a meeting and
Yeah.
they got a bunch of boards and they write down all this different,
Right.
Right.
The real work is taking that data, trying to figure it out, but actually drawing the design. So,
Right.
so it could be a $3,000 difference if you had one less design, or,
Mhm.
and then that's a little bit more significant. But
Right. Yeah, so that's what I wasn't sure about. I know they did 3. We saw them at, it was small, medium, large. I
sure,
didn't,
right. So you could have like 3A, 3B,
Right.
for 2 designs, for 3 designs.
Yeah.
I don't know. You just need to kind of up with your criteria of how you're going to select that
So-
person.
Just for clarification, the non-binding, if you will, that got voted in, which was for $2 million for a community center.
Yep.
I think to Karen's point is that $2 million a year ago
Yeah.
would have bought you something significantly different than what $2 million will buy you now.
Right.
And do we have any kind of a measure or data on what square footage is going for now with the escalation of materials and stuff? I mean, I talked with some contractors. I mean, 2x4s and most places are built with 2x6s or whatever. That was like $11.50 a piece.
Yeah.
I mean, just totally insane.
Yeah, they're like almost.
Underlayment.
They're
is
almost
100
they're almost 200% increases in some products.
Yeah,
Yeah.
if you can get them.
Right.
So and again, I just don't know, and I don't mean to be a fly in the ointment, but I mean, what kind of a bang for our buck are we gonna get for $2 million?
Yeah.
Realistically, I mean, you're gonna get.
And that truthfully could come out in number 1, Jim. Like,
Right,
they could say, yeah, I mean, for $2 million, we'll build you a gym and 2 bathrooms, like,
Yeah.
who knows? Like,
That's
You know what I
right.
mean?
or
we
like,
don't know. That's why.
right.
Right.
So that's kind of why we, but for us to kind of just go through Google and do all that stuff, at least this would get us to hopefully that concrete stage, and I know it's been done 20 years ago. So if we compare that to what we wanted, like, geez, I mean, I know it's expensive. I mean, in Brunswick, they're building a $13 million fire station. So, and that's, probably pretty close to that.
no,
Square footage,
and that's a good
so,
point.
but-
Hey, folks, this is what you get for your $2 million.
Yeah. And obviously the non-binding is truthfully just that, like non-binding. And that's what we're finding with the
Right.
other, project that we looked at, the 80 Gray in the park. Like they're really, it's just kind of a quick survey. But either way, at least, once we started this group, we wanted to kind of move forward and at least let's get to that point.
Yeah,
I think this
absolutely.
is definitely would get us some concrete and some, what do I want to say? At least something out to the public to say, yeah, we're having a meeting and yeah, this is what it would look like. Or, and obviously when you put stuff out there that's going to cost money, we'll have all kinds of different beliefs like, oh, that's great. And, oh, that's unbelievably horrible. So,
Yeah.
but
Everything in between.
How is there, is the RFP going to just one particular, how many architectural firms are we looking at?
I'm not sure.
I mean, we should have a minimum of what, 3?
Yeah, it'll be more than that.
I mean, minimum.
Yeah.
And then 5 or 6 or
Yeah, I got a list of like 8
of the people that have been doing this.
that have been doing it and or are local.
Yeah.
right.
And then I know Max said he was part of a group that he could send it out and it would get spread to a lot more
Okay.
if we were interested.
Yeah.
He wanted a copy of the RFP once it was done.
Yep.
But, right. I'll talk to
Because
them
there's certain
about
firms that obviously will do the design and build firms. And then there's the ones that will do the research type as well.
Yep.
Right,
Obviously,
exactly.
those are the ones that we'd like to try to work with. And they understand, obviously, it's a design, there's no contractual agreement, but
Right.
that would, it would help us go from, us amateurly trying to come up with realistic numbers through Google searches that,
Right.
and or how we could certain, they'll know the fire codes and the capacity and the size of the hallways need to be and
For handicap.
all that
Oh,
different,
yeah.
all those different code issues that we're not gonna find in our designs.
Now, originally, when we started this, I understood that Maine Health was going to be doing what their needs were,
Yep.
and we were going to do our needs.
Yep.
So, do we have anything more on that?
Not at the moment. So as far as I know, and so like I said, I forgot to talk to Julie about that because I was concentrating on if we had money for the RFP thing. But so Lincoln Health was fully in.
Right.
COVID hit and things got
Right,
weird,
right,
and she
right.
thought they were out, but then they had mentioned that they were on board as well still. It was, pre-COVID, we were at the point where we were coming up with our wish list. They were going to come up with their
Right,
wish list
right,
separate,
right.
and then, I think pretty much when we got to this point, once we had them, we could compare and see where we could share. I'm assuming if we're putting out this RFP where it's our building and they're just going to be an anchor tenant, that we'll probably get their wish list on step one, with the kickoff meeting with the stakeholders. I would assume, if Maine Health is going to be in, they're going to be there with their wish list. Maybe the food pantry's there with their wish list, Friendship Street School and us. And, we put all our wish list in. The only part that I don't know how that works is that if they're going to come up with a design for a building for all of these things, how are we going to get a price for the town, so to speak?
Well, I think that was hopeful if Julie was gonna be in this meeting.
Yeah.
We'd get, they just changed CEOs too.
Yeah.
Over there, so, and I guess the gal that's now gonna be the CEO is really very good. Well, actually, she spoke at that Waldeboro
Mhm.
meeting.
Yeah.
So, financially, that commitment could be, change that to twice as much. So, I mean, I don't know, it'd be nice to have some kind of financial,
Yeah, this might be a waste of money.
right,
Just going forward
Right.
with this,
if in fact they
They're-
want to be
yeah.
a dog in the, real dog in the game.
yeah,
Now, but we're gonna have to do this anyways.
Yes,
We're gonna
but,
have to do this anyways, and we're not
So what you're saying,
we're not putting any financial. We're not there's nothing in this RFP that says $2 million.
no,
And there,
No.
any of the companies that, or the architect firms that, bid on this are gonna know anything about that until we're at that first stakeholder
But-
meeting.
But if you're gonna be talking about it, you have to have some input from them to make it realistic as to what is this really gonna look like?
right? So instead of like,
You see what I'm saying?
what, really off paper, I guess is zero. Like, us as a committee and or town determining any other stakeholders, if they're being part of this concept or not.
Right.
Are they a true stakeholder? Are they really willing to say, yes, town, invest this money because we want to occupy this space, or we want it
Is it
designed,
truly
or we want it
collaborative?
designed with that space, because that would kind of be the key. So determining who the true stakeholders are. We obviously know the town,
Yep.
Us representing the town as a committee. And then, is it the pantry? Is it,
Sure,
and, before we say, yeah, you're a true stakeholder, are you really invested in this to be able to be part of this process?
process.
Right? We're not going to throw in another 3,000 square feet if you're on the fence, or it's,
Right.
or, the thought for me is, my concern isn't the building itself. Obviously, that's a lot of money. It's just the overall commitment year to year to run and manage that building. So I think it needs possibly that other component to help, or whether it's to get grants, or if it's main health, or to supervise the building, all those type of things, instead of, the department having to just justify having staff there from 6 a.m. to 8 o'clock at night, or the cleaning fees and all that different stuff that makes it a little bit harder.
Yep.
I mean, so there's two different battles, like the battle of building it and the battle of a plan to maintain and operate.
Right, operating expenses.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, can we get a hold of Julie or whoever and see if that commitment is still there?
Yeah, I can talk to her tomorrow about it.
Because I just, I don't want to go into this blind.
Yep.
Not that we don't want to do it. I mean, the food pantry, obviously, we'd love to see that.
Yep.
But if, what are their needs?
Yep.
For Maine Health or Lincoln Health, whatever it is now.
Mhm.
And what do they feel they want to contribute to it? Or do they? Or they just want space?
Yep.
Right.
And if that's the case, how do we make it fit?
Right.
Or can we make it fit?
Right. But I really think that's probably not necessarily on this RFP.
Right.
And I'm not saying
No.
it's not related to it, but it's more of defining who the stakeholders are, and that would give us the scope, I guess.
Yeah.
So that would have to be determined before number one.
Right.
What,
Yeah, definitely. But it doesn't stop us from putting this out.
Correct.
We just have to get on the ball and get that squared away.
Oh, no, yeah,
before we actually
absolutely.
meet.
Now, you mentioned Friendship School. Is that now going to be part of this?
Friendship Street
Also?
School,
Yeah.
that's been mentioned from the beginning.
Are you talking about Head Start
Head Start at Friendship Street School.
as a tenant?
Anchor tenant.
I mean, this is growing.
Yeah.
I mean, no small here anymore.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's, so that,
And I can't
that was the
imagine-
original plan. The 22,000 square foot facility we came up with to begin with was just our needs. There's always been the idea that Lincoln Health, Friendship Street School.
Yeah. I didn't
we're-
know Friendship School.
Yeah,
I heard-
they've been, I'm not sure their commitment level right now, but they've
Right.
wanted to get out of the building they're in for a long
Mhm.
time.
Right.
So I think we may have to revisit that to make sure that, these people are truly on board. We can't go on hearsay.
Right.
No,
Because
definitely.
I mean, if we're gonna start really pushing, which we all want to, then we gotta know who the stakeholders truly are. Well, we've heard this, we've heard that. Well, here, what's the old saying?
Right.
Money talks and
Yeah.
the other stuff,
So Jim, are you saying we hold off on this maybe till next meeting?
I don't know
or-
if can we get some of the information in the interim? And I think we all feel pretty strongly that if we know what the commitment is from these other folks, we can do a Zoom. We can do a vote by
Yeah.
phone. I mean, I don't want to hold off any more than we have to, but
Right.
I feel uncomfortable. You're kind of throwing a dart at the board and, all of a sudden, whoa, we don't want to leave them out. We just want to make sure that they really
Yeah,
truly want to be in,
right. No, that's
And
I-
definitely true. I just think this, no matter if they're involved or not, it's gonna be a town project where we're the ones putting out the RFP. And whether or not they come in or not, I don't know that this changes.
Well, it changes in the sense that if Maine Health needs to have specific types of space for different types of activity, whether it be, let's say, heart health or, equipment that they need, or they need to have certain offices because, the office building down on Old Route 1, they're gonna close,
Yeah.
consolidate and put it in this.
Right,
Yeah.
I mean, there's
right.
I just don't know.
So
the
we don't
level of-
even know if they need 20,000 square feet or
Feet.
what. I mean, to go into this,
Right.
a
Right.
concept, we need to know if they're we know what we think we need. Now we need to know if they're at 20,000, 40,000 or what.
Right. I
just-
mean, the
and
one
how's
thing,
it-
the one thing that this RFP doesn't have on it, and it could be to a benefit of the discussion that we're having, is there's no formal time frame to this, correct?
Nope.
I mean,
Right.
so we could put this out or get this approved at least by the selectmen, and then, but really, like I said before, one is like the stakeholders, because
Right.
obviously they'd be a key part, and if they came in after public forum 1, then 3 is kind of gone, and
No,
the matter of process would be
it all has
a
to be
true
done.
defining of the stakeholders, and that would be part of the public forum of, but we'd also need some sort of commitment or understanding of what they would like to try to bring to the table,
Yeah.
Right.
their needs, and how they would help accommodate those needs as far as
Well,
financially.
it'd be like an MOU.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And-
correctly.
And
correct.
that way, I mean, I think what you're saying, Marcus, is that you want to get this approved, that we can move forward with an
Right.
RFP.
Yeah, and then
What we need to put in there is still in the works, as far as the stakeholders. and
yeah, as far as the
clarification.
stakeholders and what we want for concepts, that's still that's still all up it up in the air, but not whether Lincoln. What I'm trying to say, I guess, is whether Lincoln Health or any of them are in or out. Say they're all in.
Yeah.
This doesn't change. They're all out. This paper doesn't change. Like
Yeah.
to me, this paper, this RFP is set. As far as everyone else is, if everyone else approves it, I don't know if there's anything we put in here that says anything about, maybe we change it to community center / medical arts or whatever, but,
Mhm.
there's no square footage
Right.
asks in here. There's
Right.
no,
How quickly do these
no money.
things move?
Oh, I mean, we probably, so if we approve it tonight, it could possibly go on the first meeting of May. If it gets approved, and then we make the final, document, sends it out, you give 6 weeks maybe to get the bid back, open up the bid, then you make the bid decision,
So you still,
and then you
would-
start, you're probably, even with the pandemic, you probably wouldn't want a large public forum of,
We've
the school
already
might not
had
be
one.
available till
summer.
September,
September.
October,
Yeah.
so this would probably be, the hope would be you could get through these concepts by next May, or next budget season, or.
Well,
Right.
I think we've really had the first public forum with the survey.
I would disagree.
I mean, I know you're gonna have to have additional comments and things
Yeah.
like that, but I mean, that was a starting point.
I think the difference on the survey they saw, 3, small, medium, large, and 3 different money amounts. In a forum, especially with the architects there, they're gonna see, what their money could get
Oh,
and,
definitely, yeah.
and what they
Oh, yeah.
might want,
And the excitement would,
hopefully.
Well, yes, and to the benefit of the educated taxpayer, or they'd want to know what they're getting, how they're getting it,
oh, yeah.
how it's going to be funded, how is it going to be funded in the future, and those are the details that we'd want to try to include them in as much, so they don't come out and say, oh, and we saw a little bit of that, and there was some truth to it, 0 wasn't an option.
Right.
Would you fund this for 2 million, 4 million, 6 million? Some
Right.
people might have just said 0,
Right.
and as hard as
They
that
said
is,
no.
so, right,
They said no.
yeah, but
It was yes, no, and if yes, how much?
my concern is we've had a lot of new people move into town. How do we get them to get their input?
Hold public forums and get the word out the best we can.
Yeah, how can we get the word out? We have no
Same.
newspaper. We have,
I mean, that's the challenge that we have.
because we don't want the same old, same old.
Right. I mean, the only thing I could think of is you have some signage that you could put up at the grocery store, at the post office, at some of these places. It says, this date at the high school is going to be in the gym, this forum.
Yep.
And, obviously put it on the sign and put it on the website,
Facebook page, and
but
in the
On the
paper,
sign out front.
Yeah. everywhere we can.
Yeah.
That's the hardest part of my job is getting the word out to people, and I put it out every
Yeah.
place that I have to put it out.
And
you're
you can
always going to
send-
get those people that didn't
Right.
see it.
right, or you send it out as a mailer and they just say, oh, and they throw it. So,
Yeah,
I mean,
Right.
Right.
there's no foolproof way besides trying to
Hit every avenue.
hit as many avenues as possible, and those that have a vested interest will be more heavily involved, and those that have a vested interest to downplay it will be involved as well. But the downplayers really shouldn't be involved until it gets to the point of a vote and money
Right.
discussion. So I don't see that really coming up in any of these besides.
Quick question on the RFP. Have you, or will you state a dollar amount? Or you just want the narrative approved?
Just the narrative.
Okay,
Mhm.
okay. So if someone says to you, board member, selectman, how much it's gonna cost,
What?
the RFP?
I don't know. This is the only one I have to go on, and it was just over $14,000,
And when was that?
2018.
2018, so that's probably,
20,000.
yeah. Depending on, obviously your answer could be, depending on
We don't know.
how
Yeah,
involved it gets, it could be,
we're gonna get back to bids, and whatever we get, we get. And
right,
Right, if all the
if all the bids come.
we're
back-
getting permission, I think is the first step to put out for bid.
right,
Once they submit it for free, there's still no binding that we're gonna actually,
Shoot.
at that point, the selectmen said, maybe they'll say, yeah, we approve it, with bids up to 20,000, or they'll
Right.
approve it to put it out to bid, and then let's see if we're
let's see what we get.
gonna move forward with it. It
Yeah.
comes back at 45K or whatever, then they'll say no,
Well,
Some of those, like Wyndham is a lot closer to some of these associates, so some of the travel is less. And if
Well,
it's
you
coming
know-
from Boston, they want to put in spend the night somewhere, or, those type of things that
they
are
can stay at
different.
my house.
I doubt they'll put that in there, Karen, but maybe.
But this is Waldeboro Recreation Committee. But we're not, this is an unusual thing where we're going with this marriage with Lincoln Health. So it's really a combo thing that they're going to be
If that's,
bidding on.
if that's truly the case.
Proposal for that.
Right.
So I'm just wondering if that,
So I guess my point would be, and kind of going with Marcus a little bit, and not to go against anybody, but is, let's say we're gonna take this to the selectmen and give us the approval to send it out to people. And in that time, really zero is confirming the town, us, whoever, who are the major stakeholders, if any, other than the town, to go into this, that need to be in meeting number one. Meeting one is a group of us, the selectmen, and, anybody else that may have a say in it, whether it's the CEO of Maine Health or whoever.
Mhm.
And then that kind of would help them to define the scope and understand what the people that are going to pay the bills would. And then they open it up, we market it and publicize the public forum. They come in with their boards and they write down like, oh yeah, we'd like this, that, and they take it all together, with us being in that meeting as well. And they come up with their designs, whether it's, 2 designs, 3 designs.
Right.
And then from there they go, oh, geez, I don't like this layout. I don't want, the hospital says, geez, I don't like this design. I want it over here. I need to be closer to the gym, or I want my patrons close enough to this, or, and that's where you're going to get your redefined concepts or change concepts in 5.
I'm just wondering though, if they're looking at this, that it's, if we're not really giving them the full thing of what they're, because if we had Maine Health or whatever in there, it might look a little different in the. No?
But they're not
Well-
coming up with a design
No, I
before
know,
they
but
come
I
to
don't
us.
mean design, I mean that what they're going to be bidding on the proposal. I just don't know if it needs to be a little more expansive or not, where it kind of looks like a rec thing.
Yeah.
Well, I
This
just,
is kind of
I-
unique.
I just like to have clarification as to whether or not they're in or they're
Well,
out.
we will get that, but I'm
But
just
to
wondering.
your point, someone's gonna look at that and say, okay, well, it's, it's Waldeboro, Maine, a little community center. All of a sudden now it says, oh, Lincoln Health's involved. They want to have this for their medical arts building. It changes the complexion of how an architectural firm will look at this.
Well, that's what I'm kind of wondering.
You know what I mean?
So do we want to, I mean, if we like the rest of it, do we want to approve it with
Yes,
a title, maybe a title change if we get approval from,
whatever they would think that would
You know,
make this a
we-
little more expansive.
well, we can approve the meat and the potatoes tonight. And if, the top says Town of Waldeboro, Maine Community Center,
And down
request a
here it says
proposal.
recommended, yeah,
uh,
yeah.
maybe, if I talk to Julie and she says Lincoln Health's on board, and Lincoln Health says they're on board, we change it to Waldeboro, Maine Community Center / Medical Arts
Something,
The
yes.
building,
I
in the
think,
title, but the rest of
Yes.
it's probably not gonna change.
yeah, I don't have a problem.
Okay.
I just think it's,
Yeah, I mean, from obviously it's a different experience, but my experience is with if Harmon and Associates or there's a variety of them, especially down towards Boston. I mean, that can do a lot of stuff remote, and they'll send people for these special things. If they're looking for work, they'll do it regardless of the size of it. They know they'd put out a bid for, what I would do it for, and if they want it, then they'll put a bid. If they don't, they don't, or they
Yeah.
throw a large price tag at it, knowing most likely they won't get it. So, but if we're uncomfortable putting that out there really is. We could wait another meeting, unless there's a certain
I don't
timeline
want to
that.
wait another meeting. I
Okay.
just think that it may be, whatever the select board thinks, I just think that maybe needs to be a little bit,
Right.
give them an impression of really what we're looking for.
Well, again, we'll be putting this to the selectmen, and the
Right.
selectmen may say, I want to change. They may want to change this. I mean, we're just giving
Right,
we're giving our input and
Right.
our desires, and they can obviously say, they could say, no, we don't want to spend those monies, which we think that are there, and we feel that they would probably support it, but we don't know that. And they may say, well, we want to change it, or they may have the same concerns with us and Jim that says, we want to know all the players before we put this out to RFP.
the town of Waldeboro, Maine Community Center / Medical Arts would be fine.
We can change it to that if we get approval
Yeah, right,
from Lincoln Health, basically, I guess.
yeah.
But as far as the rest of it,
Or medical campus, whatever they wanted to say, but I just think.
Just to know if they're in or they're out.
Yeah.
Because if they're out, that's okay. Let's go with it.
last I was told they were in, but that was a while ago. I'm not sure.
I think we owe it to ourselves.
Yeah.
To understand, everyone was hot to trot back a year and a half ago.
Yep.
And now we're getting ready to do an RFP, and is that still the case?
Right.
Because you don't want to look like a fool and say this, and this, and all of a sudden it's like, hey, wait a minute, what about us? We want in.
Right.
And we're willing to support it.
Trevor, do you have any input that you'd like to share, or are you good?
Sorry, I was getting off mute. I see both sides. It's interesting. No, I don't know. I think I'm comfortable either way. I don't know. I guess I'd defer to you guys to see how it's, I guess see how you think it would go best. Do we do the RFP first and things change, or do we, try to get all the pieces in place and lock it down in effect, right, before we do it? So
So,
I don't.
yeah, so really the question is defining number one better, right? Defining stakeholders,
That works, I think.
right? Is there more than the town of Waldeboro Recreation Committee that needs to be part of that first meeting? Or can that be determined afterwards? I guess that's the question.
Well, if Lincoln Medical Partners is in, then we need to, and whoever. I
Right.
mean, that's,
Right.
Okay.
I think it's just a point of clarification.
So,
I get what Karen's saying. You don't want to have that go out there and be like, whoa, when did they come in?
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
It's,
I get it.
If that's the intent, if that's been the intent from the beginning, then
Right.
So,
Well, I think the major one would be the health. I don't think the Friendship School or the Pantry needs to be cemented in. It's just that other medical arts campus or whatever it is would be.
I mean, if you guys are all right with it and want to approve this tonight, I will talk to Julie tomorrow and we can definitely get talking with them. And I can, send you guys any updates with this over email. That would just be, changing maybe number one a little bit or the title a little bit. If she has any input from Lincoln Health.
That's all.
But she was urging me to get on this, so.
That's fine.
oh, understandable.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. I just think,
Yeah, I
it's the 6 Ps.
Yeah.
Prior planning prevents piss poor performance.
Very good.
And I don't want to be standing there going,
Right.
we want to give them the opportunity. If they're in, they're in. Great. Yeah, let's go.
Yeah.
Because that would be,
So with that, I guess are we at a point where we'd want to make a motion to move forward with this? Are there any changes we really want
Yeah.
to make? Or, the message really is we're sending, if we're going to put this to the selectmen, is we would like further information to know if there's any other stakeholders and their commitment level.
And even
Yeah,
if we.
Because that's going to be needed.
Yeah.
Like, again, this
Even
may
if
not
we-
start till September or October, depending on the process. I just know how things work.
My hope is that we approve this tonight and I get clarification on the stakeholders
Yes,
before we even take it to the select board. And any
that's
little
fine.
edits that
Yeah.
need to be made
That's
will be
fine.
done before they go to the select board, but.
Right.
yeah,
as
that's
long as we
fine.
have something.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't have any problem with that. Do you, Trevor?
no, I'm good with that. Thank you.
I think it's just a matter of this is the nuts and bolts of how we like to see
Yeah.
it kind of developed in phases. And I think one is really on us before, even goes out to bid, is trying to get more clarity on stakeholders and those that have expressed interest, their true interest, and how we would put this into public forum number one.
Right.
So obviously if we went to the forum, it's like we're here to discuss, a community center. In that community center, this is the rec committee's vision of these components, whether it's for the fitness pieces, and then the other, main health is here and they want to talk to you about what their plans are. They'd like to have
Exactly.
Right.
this many square footage to be able to have these 8 doctors or this walk-in clinic or whatever it may be that they're looking to do. And then we hear from Joe Schmo in the back of the room that says, oh, I think it'd be great to have this component that none in the room considered, or something like that. So,
Well,
Yep.
and the thing is, if you got Damascott's right there, you got Penn Bay right there, they're all together now. Would that be redundant to do something here?
right. Or,
You know?
with the latest, has COVID helped this process?
Right.
Is there more grants and money and change of political powers? There's a
Right.
variety of different issues that could make things go faster, or things that, no, before when we talked, we could do this. Now COVID's hit and we don't have the financial
We don't have the
resources,
right.
or our needs have changed, or whatever that may be. But
I just think we owe it to them and we owe it to ourselves to get that clarification.
right. And we'd feel comfortable, as well as I think Julie would, is when she takes that, to have that understanding of who's possibly still at the table
Yeah,
when she takes it to the selectmen.
yeah,
Or
exactly.
we take it to the selectmen, whatever. Probably they'd want you, Lisa, or Marcus to
Yeah.
represent it. So with that, is there a motion to move forward with this as written, or is there changes, or who would like to make a motion?
I'd like to make a motion that Marcus finds out what would be the additional verbiage in the title of this this proposal before it goes out to the public for proposal request, I guess. I'm trying to say.
So you're saying before we take it to the selectmen, we should solidify the names or the stakeholders, or?
No, I'm just saying what I'm saying is I think it would look better as a proposal if Lincoln Health was on there with the community center. And if that's true, I think that's how it should be presented to the select board.
Trying to think how that works as a
Well, can we
motion.
do a motion to accept this? And with the caveat that clarification of Lincoln Health's position be either added as an addendum or added in the stakeholders part of the RFP. In other words, approve this RFP narrative
With the caveat.
with the caveat that,
Depending on Lincoln's Health's position, we'll change the title
and add them as a
stakeholder
stakeholder.
Before it goes out to actual bid,
before it
Yes,
goes out to bid.
right.
not necessarily
I like
before it
that. I
goes.
like that if that's workable.
So what we'd have to do is you'd have to withdraw your
Sure,
motion.
I withdraw my
then
motion.
You'd need to clarify or clean up your motion, or,
Yeah, all right, so I'll
I'm
move,
sorry.
I'll move that we accept the written narrative for the request for a proposal as is, with the caveat of clarification for Lincoln Health as a potential or an additional stakeholder. So approve the document as is.
Yep.
And maybe I should make a second motion, or just the caveat, there'll be a clarification on Lincoln Health, and move it forward.
Do I have a second?
Second,
Any discussion? Trevor, anything?
No, I'm good with that. Thank you.
I'm sorry, I just can't see you. So
No, I appreciate it.
with that, I guess I'd take it to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
All object? No. So that passes. You'll clean that up, and, you'll meet with Julie.
Yep.
And, to that, it would be beneficial maybe if Julie could be at our next meeting, so we could have some clarification or where we are. She may not have the answer yet. But,
Yeah, when she does, get her here.
or at least an understanding. That we go to new business 6-1, community center grant briefing. And I think originally we had planned on something here, but you have some news on that, correct?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, so I sent out all of you an email. We had a grant opportunity that Max found. It was up, I think we put in to get $1 million to help with this community center. We found out today we did not get it. But talking to Max, he said it sounded like it was a reoccurring grant opportunity. So there might be opportunities in the future. And he said it might actually work out better for us to be, maybe by the time it comes around again, we have, with the current location we're looking at, we have the water and sewer expanded up there, and we're a little more ready to go because with those grants, there's a certain timeline you have to spend the money in or it's gone. So he didn't seem too worried about it. And he said, they got hundreds of applications. He told me at the beginning that there was probably only a 5% chance we'd actually get it. But we did put in for it. And I want to thank everybody that sent in a letter I reached out to a lot of the teams and organizations around town for letters of support, and we got quite a few in, so that was encouraging, and I want to thank everybody for that. But that's all I have for that. We didn't get it, and we're moving forward.
Is that through the state or is that
I
through?
don't remember who he said that was through.
Okay. But they're reoccurring.
They're reoccurring.
Okay.
And in fairness, probably some of the larger grants like that really are looking for some concrete numbers behind it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And maybe we'll be in a better situation next
Good.
year or the year after or whatever.
Yep. Good point.
Budget review. I know he's printed those off for us.
Yeah, so I printed off a copy of my budget book. Sorry, Trevor, I just got it before we got in here. But so you'll see 620 is my department, and it goes down through the lines. It's a 2022 budget, and you'll see that 2022 initial is very different than 2022 manager. And that usually that's what the town manager is proposing, but where my budget was so weird, she put in the numbers under initial for what I asked for, and then the manager one was just a copy of what this year's was again, in case the budget committee and select board didn't approve me back to full time. It showed the option for what part-time looked like last year and again. But the budget committee and the select board approved the 2022 initial budget unanimously. So that's the budget that will go out to the voters in June. And if that passes, I'll go back to 36. I'll go up to 36 hours a week. Not back to 40 like I was before, but that's the case with every department in the town office, in the admin part of the town office. Obviously EMS and fire and all that, police are all different, but public works, but our office building all went back to 32 this year, and we're going up to 36 next year, voter approved. The top section is just my payroll stuff. So you can see there that I don't make the $80,000 that the paper reported. And then below that, it's just benefits. And then it comes down to kind of what I actually put in operating expenses. Membership dues, $45. That's just a main Parks and Rec. Postage, office supplies, small stuff there. Coming down to the next page, utilities for the rec fields. It just pays for the electricity at the concession stands and whatnot. So actually, I don't know. Maybe that's actually paid through a different account, so there's nothing under utilities. Equipment rentals, porta potties for the fields. Land maintenance is all my field maintenance stuff. So like turfus for Bagley Field, paint for the dugouts, fertilizer, grass seed, all that. You'll see that there was a major jump in that. It doubled. The backstop at Sukeforth Field that was put in when they built the fields, the frost keeps heaving it up. It's now about this. If I took the chicken wire off there that I put on, there's probably like a 12 to 18 inch gap on the fence.
Differential, wow.
So we put that money in there. Our plan is to have Newport Fence come back in. They're the ones who put the fence in. We want to have them come back in and try it. And they said they'd work with us to fix it. They've never actually, they build them, but they don't really fix them, but they said they would. Whether it has to, completely, that part of the fence has to completely come down and be put back up, or if we can kind of dig around it and get it back down.
And this is at one of the new fields or newer fields?
Sukforth.
That's a Little League
The
field,
Little League field
a
behind.
new one.
A new one.
The baseball one.
I'm sorry, I've lived here forever. I still can't remember the names.
Yeah. So that's where.
So that's what represents the like $5,000 increase would
Yep.
be to replace that, and she
Yep.
has it in it as a cut in case they didn't want to go to that level. Is that
Yeah, so
correct?
I mean, if you look at 2021 budget and
Yeah.
2022 manager budget,
Yeah.
they're identical.
Yeah,
And that's what passed last year as like my COVID budget, basically.
Right.
So everything, that's what I had in for this past year. It was 16 hours a week, and pretty much everything that could be cut was. She left all the field maintenance stuff in there, which was great because even though we weren't running programs.
So last year, 18,000 was what was
that was
no
payroll.
year to date was 18,000 is what they paid you out of the Parks and Rec.
Yeah,
and
and
the rest is
I've only spent 3,000 of it as of in
Right.
February,
right.
because I've been under
Sure.
doing town clerk stuff.
Okay.
So if you look at the very, very bottom, it says rec. So my budget in 2021 was 27,529,
Yeah.
and year to date I've spent 8,560.
Mhm.
That was in February. I just spent a lot more of that because I had to buy field maintenance stuff. That's a big part of it. But you'll see that it goes up to 81,464 is what's going to be on the ballot for this year, and the 2020 budget, the far left, which was my budget pre-COVID, was 82,614. So it's actually still down from a couple years ago, mostly because of my salary went down from
Is that because of less hours a week?
because of less hours.
Okay. So
My
that,
hourly
that
rate,
was my
hourly
question. Was
rate.
like I'm looking at 2020 at 44, and then
Yeah,
looking at 2022 at 45.
that's just a 4 hour a week. 4 hour
That's
a week.
the 4 hour
difference.
differential.
My hourly rate has been flat since then, I think.
Right, minus this 200 hours a year or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay, which obviously affects some of your retirement and all that type of stuff.
Right. Yeah.
But it also
trickles down.
But that's why we have the decrease between at the bottom at
Yeah,
the
from-
81,000. It's mainly just be due to those 200
Right.
so many hours
So I got,
decrease over the
there's
years.
4,000 less there in salary, but there's
Yeah.
5,000 more in
Okay.
field maintenance, but then some of the other stuff trickled down. So it is, compared to what I was working with pre-COVID, it's still a cut budget.
Yep.
But the way the paper reported it didn't make it sound that way. Got many calls about my raise. And then
Yeah, that was a shame.
under the field maintenance, under the land maintenance, other expenses, transportation, $2,000. That's our senior citizen bus trip we put on every fall. We put that back in. Hopefully by the fall, hopefully things have calmed down enough and people can get out and do a bus trip. So that's kind of my whole budget. Most of my day-to-day operating expenses come through my enterprise account. So all the money I bring in, like registration money and donations and stuff like that, all my revenues go into a separate account, and then I buy stuff.
so it's just a revolving account.
That's
that
just a
you have.
revolving account that I have. So it's all built up from my own revenues.
Right, whatever
sorry.
comes in.
Right. So, if I bring in $3,000 in co-ed softball revenue, I'm going to spend the $1,500
Oh, yeah.
on, bats and balls and stuff that go, and trophies that go back in.
And that,
Youth basketball, I buy the basketballs
And that's
the
not-
shirts. and
that's
the
not
medals.
reflected in this.
None of that goes into this.
This is just your
Yeah,
regular,
this is basically
coming out of the
salary,
general,
benefits,
right.
typical year-to-year stuff.
Yep.
and land maintenance. The bus trip comes out of it. And then, I haven't really put anything in. I think up here under supplies, it's up to 1,835. That was the liner for the ice rink. That's the only other major change. Big stuff like that. This is the first one I've ever really put in. But Kyle, my predecessor, said that day-to-day stuff you buy it at the enterprise account. But if there was a big ticket item that you needed to buy, to budget for it.
Yeah.
And so that's what I'm doing
Right.
with the liner.
Yeah.
So
Awesome.
Okay.
So that's kind of the overview of my budget for the year. I'm hopeful the voters will pass it and we'll get back to some type of normalcy. I'm pretty much already with the Little League kicking off and going back to full time. I'm pretty much doing double duty at this point. It's when I'm at the counter registering cars, and then 2 minutes later I'm on the phone with Little League coaches and figuring out practice times. I'm nothing about my rec job this spring has changed from years past, except that I got other stuff to do on top of it. So
Right.
I'll be happy to get back to just doing that. And being town clerk and having to be here for customers keeps me locked to the building. So I got field maintenance stuff to do. I'm going out when we're closed on Fridays. I'm supposed to be off, but I'm going out to Sioux Forth and putting down turfus and trying to rig the backstop to stop a ball because won't be fixed till after the season.
Right.
And then fixing the mound and putting up the fence. And I got to basically do all that stuff on days we're not open because I just can't get out there.
Right.
So any questions? So let me know, but
No, it looks good. I just feel bad that the newspaper article didn't really break down the details of understanding that was the full Parks and Recreation budget. Besides, I mean, obviously the salaries and benefits are a large portion of that, but it's not representative.
And that's
of the whole.
to be fair to that, they didn't lie. It was just how it came across. They reported my budget as increased to 81,464. Most of that being Benner's salary. Well, at 45, it's they're pretty close. Most 51%, I guess.
Yeah.
Is but it's. I just hope the voters understand that I'm not making $80,000 a year, and most of it's going,
Mhm.
a lot of it's the whole department, and there's a lot going on.
Yeah.
And if to not have a rec department to help Little League and run summer rec and soccer would be devastating for a lot of families.
Right. That's the investment that the townspeople have put past in the past, and let's hope that they do it again.
Yep.
Item 6.3, spring summer preview. I know you
we've
touched
covered
a
it.
little bit on report.
Yeah.
Items for upcoming agendas. I guess would be the follow up on your conversation, or if it comes after the select board meeting or whatnot.
Or grant.
Yep. Continuation on your summer programs and
Next meeting day,
Let's see.
it's my map's at. That's not
It's probably my anniversary, May 26th, I'm guessing.
I won't be here. Should we change it?
26.
We get back the 26th.
I would be available the first week of June. That would mean we'd have 2 that month. Or I could do it. I could possibly do the 27th if that was better. Currently,
Yeah, I could do it.
I might be off that week as well, so I'm trying to figure out time. But
26th is my anniversary, so I'm all for changing it if people are, but.
Sure.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You let me know.
why don't we?
I can make it any other.
Why don't
night.
we meet on June 2nd?
June 2nd?
June 2nd?
Okay, because I might be on vacation that Memorial Day weekend.
Does
Is
that
that
work for you, Trevor?
I believe so.
Okay.
We'll plan on that, and then at that meeting we can decide if we need to have a second meeting for June or not.
6 o'clock as usual.
Yep, I'll just have to double, I don't have it on my phone anymore. They changed the calendar stuff here at the office. I'll just have to make sure we have a place to meet, or
Okay.
unless we want to do Zoom. But
This would be best, but
yeah,
if not, at least.
yeah, I don't know what's on the
So-
calendar.
So just, you obviously got that, Trevor, right? That we're not gonna meet in May, but we'll meet in June on the 2nd, and then we'll determine from that meeting if we need to meet again in June.
Works for me. Thank you.
Okay. All right, with that, I would accept a motion to adjourn.
I'd like to make the motion to adjourn.
Oh, thank you. Second.
I'll second.
Nice, Karen got that second. All in favor? Aye.
Bye.
Aye.
All right, everyone have a great night.
Thank you, guys. Good to see you. Bye.
Thank you.
See
I
ya.
wish we could see you.
It's a mess. You don't want to see me.
I figured.
Cut that hair, Trevor.
Callie cut my hair last time.
There we go. Makes sense.
All right. You guys have a great night.